All right. Well, welcome to this month's Beta Aleph Speakers Forum and Social Hour. I am Stu Heller, the moderator. This evening, we have the pleasure of Celia Curran as our speaker. And she's going to talk about the very meandering path in life that led her to the deeply satisfying opportunity to become a Beit Aleph musician. She'll be sharing how certain individuals influenced her life and how she seemingly random choices she made led her to this amazing and supportive community. She's had the pleasure in her life of singing a diverse spectrum of music, from early Baroque and classical opera to modern contemporary musical theater, rock and pop. But nothing, she says, has quite touched her soul like being able to share her voice with Beit Aleph. And we are lucky because tonight she's going to share her story and some samples of her voice with us. So Celia, please do it.
Thank you, Stu, and thank you to the Beit Aleph Learners Institute. I'm now blanking on what the L stands for. Sorry. Thank you to everyone who's joining us both live and watching the replay. So my name is Celia Rose Curran. I have been a Beit Aleph musician since 2010. It is now 2023, so almost 13 years. It's my bat mitzvah year, as Olivier would put it. So yeah, it's funny. I've always been a natural performer. I've always had the kind of, hammy cheesiness that is required of somebody either being on stage or being in front of people. And I've always loved music. My family's always been a big music family. My grandparents were huge musical theater fans. My grandfather was a big jazz fan and loved classical music. And when I was younger, so I was born in Oregon, and then my family moved to Bellevue, Washington, when I was about 3. And my mom was already completely not in love with, but really, really loved Rabbi James Morrell. So he was my birth rabbi. He baby named me. And she had followed him from Temple D. Hirsch to Temple B'nai Torah. Yeah, with my grandparents, instilling this love of musical theater. Fun little side note, my grandparents used to be friends with the people that used to own the Paramount Theater. So I grew up getting, all these great tickets to, seeing all the Broadway shows that would come to the Paramount Theater, Singing in the Rain and West Side Story, and just all these great shows. And I just thought, oh, everybody gets to do this, right? So, really, really loved just the whole combination of being in a musical. And with my parents being friends with the Morells, of course, Chava Morell and I were very young friends together. And so when we were really little, I hope she doesn't get mad at me for sharing this, but we were really young. We used to put on shows for our parents where we would dress up and sing and dance for them in front of the fireplace or whatever. And watching her she's always played guitar. She was a song leader when we were in high school, and she's always been an inspiration to me. And so seeing where she is now musically is also very, very inspiring. And if you are not familiar with Chava Morel, I highly suggest you check out her music. So yeah, so my mom followed Rabbi Morel to Temple B'nai Torah, and I think we started going there when I was in about second grade, and I went to Hebrew school and learned the prayers and sang the songs. And about fourth grade or so, cantor David Sirkin Poole asked if I would be interested in joining the youth choir. And I'm like, oh, okay, sure. At that point, I think I was playing the viola because it was cheaper to rent than a violin. And so I was in orchestra in elementary school and junior high. But sang in the youth choir at B'nai Torah, didn't think anything about it. Like, oh, I've got a solo. Okay, cool. No big deal. Like, I had no idea. Honestly, I had no idea what was in here when I was younger. I just knew that I liked to use it and have fun with it. It really was, that the whole David was probably the most early influential musician that I had in my life. And I'm so thankful. We got about to my bat mitzvah, and he wanted to do something very different. And that was also around the time I switched and stopped playing the viola and went to choir because all my friends did. If my friends leave orchestra, then I gotta leave orchestra too and go hang out with them in choir, because what am I gonna do all by myself? Again, didn't think anything of it, auditioned for solos, got solos, okay, great, I'm singing this thing, okay, cool. Well, my bat mitzvah rolls around, and David had a really interesting way of presenting my voice. And that was when there were few enough B'nai Mitzvah candidates that we could host both the Shabbat dinner beforehand. So I hosted the Shabbat on Friday night, and then obviously my bat mitzvah ceremony was on Saturday. I got really lucky too, because it was on my birthday, and that never happens. My birthday was on a Saturday, and I got to have my bat mitzvah on my birthday, or like maybe it was like 2 days before, where my sister's was like months away from her birthday. So I was like, yeah, look what I got. So for Friday night, David taught me the Debbie Friedman Vishamru, which, as many of you know, is one of my special songs that I get to sing at Bet Aleph. I have been singing that since my bat mitzvah, and that's part of the reason why it's so special to me. Saturday morning, he chose a really unique Ma Tovu, and instead of already being seated on the bima with the rabbi and the cantor, as people were starting to filter in to sit down before the ceremony started, before the service started, he decided to, have everybody sit and then start the service with me singing and walking down the aisle to the bima. And it was not unexpected, and it caught most people off guard, including my mother, who didn't know it was me until she turned around and looked at me. And she told me after that was the moment she knew that I had more than just, it was more than just a hobby. It was more than just, oh, she can sing. It was that, like, I had a gift. And so my bat mitzvah really changed a lot of things for me. And I'd always enjoyed singing in Hebrew. And because Temple Youth Choir was my first chance, or my first opportunity singing for people, now I look back at it and I think, gosh, I learned how to sing in Hebrew before I learned how to sing in English. So it's no wonder that I ended up where I'm at. In high school, I was able to continue that love of musical theater and auditioned for, I went to Interlake High School, which again, Bellevue, Washington, had a pretty strong theater and musical theater department. The drama teacher, her name is Diane Lacker, another wonderfully amazing, influential person in my life. She taught both my sister and myself, and I was lucky enough to have Mrs. Lacker for both 7th grade English and drama, and then she moved to the high school, and I had her throughout high school as well. And you know, she really instilled the "there are no small parts, only small actors" rule, and you know, helped me learn some harder lessons in life, like other people like solos too, other people like to get parts in shows too. And so I learned a lot of humility, which was needed, because you know, you have to have that balance of like having the ego and the gravitas to, you know, get up there and give your performance spirit. But you know, when you're performing with a group of people, you also got to know when to let somebody else shine. And those were really challenging lessons to learn, but really important lessons to learn, and sometimes I'm still learning them. In high school, I also auditioned immediately for concert choir, and also auditioned for the Interlake Jazz Choir, which at the time, this would have been about 1990, was incredibly elite, and it was unheard of for freshmen to get into jazz choir. Well, I got in. I was very happy. It was interesting though, because the choir director at the time, Ms. Edie, she already had enough sopranos in jazz choir, but she was like, I don't want to miss this opportunity. I think you're a really talented singer. You can bring a lot. How do you feel about singing alto? And I thought it was a demotion, because I'm so used to being the high soprano. I'm always a first soprano, can sing the high notes. And alto, like, really? I don't want to sing that, but you know, that's what she had. And if I wanted to be in jazz choir, then that was my choice. Again, best accident that could have happened, because singing alto taught me how to harmonize, taught me how to, you know, find the interesting melodies and harmonies that aren't just the lead line. And one of the things she had us do was actually, we did a lot of old school 4-part Christmas carols, and she would book us out and we'd sing at the mall, or, you know, you could hire us for a party. So now I know all the harmonies to all the classic Christmas carols. Not that that matters for us, but it's fun to kind of break that out. If somebody's over here singing "Angels We Have Heard on High," I'm like, oh, I can do the fun alto bit. But yeah, so I got to be in some really fun musical theater performances. My junior year, we did Bye Bye Birdie, and I played the role of Rose Alvarez, which is the love interest of the main character, Al, who is the manager of said Bye Bye Birdie, and got to sing Spanish Rose. That was really fun. And then my senior year, we did Carousel, and I was cousin Nettie, who got to sing You'll Never Walk Alone. And that was the beginning of when, again, things changed for me, you know, going from I'm just singing in concert choir to like, oh, I have a little more heft to my voice. And my junior year choir teacher, Mr. Taylor, again, recognized that a little bit. And he always would say, you know, I've got lots of voice teachers that are always knocking on my door. And I tell them, if you want to, you know, advertise to my students, you have to come teach a lesson for free. So he got one of the voice teachers that was interested in doing that to come and give a voice lesson. And he wanted me to be the quote unquote guinea pig. And that would be my very first voice teacher, named Edie Delegons. Again, like truly amazing foundation, really helped me figure out what my voice was all about. Because at the time, you know, I had no idea I could make opera sounds. Like that was not, you know, I'm a musical theater gal. But that was what my voice wanted. It was, and she recognized that. And so I started with private lessons, and I had private lessons with her my last year of high school and my first year of community college. I ended up at Bellevue Community College because I was not the most amazing student. I will just say that right now. And you know, would not have the SAT scores to get into, say, University of Puget Sound, where she was on the faculty. So I was like, let me just do some, theater and some music theory and do choir at Bellevue College. At the time, it was Bellevue Community College, or BCC. And so I pushed myself to do that program and failed miserably because the theater, or the music theory, just my brain just didn't want to figure any of that out. And the teacher was really hard to work with. I loved my improv classes. I loved being in concert choir. That concert choir was also another really awesome push. The choir director, Ken, who, really, he was the one that showed me what constructive criticism can actually look like and what it should look like. I was working on a small part. We were doing a four mini shows. So we did Pirates of Penzance, Beauty and the Beast, Miss Saigon, and I don't remember the other one because this is still way back in the 90s, and it's been a long time. And so I had the part of Mabel in Pirates of Penzance, and I had to do the run. It's yes, 'tis May, and I'm not going to do the whole thing, but he had me do it over and over and over again, and I could not figure out why he was making me kill myself to hit this run. And I was getting exhausted and couldn't figure out what he was looking for, and he just kind of stopped and looked at me, and he said, I'm not asking you to do it because I think you're doing a bad job. I'm asking you to keep doing it because I know you can do it better. And that's when that light bulb clicked of like, oh, so when people are hard on me, it's not because they're mean, it's because they see something that I'm not seeing yet, and they are trying to pull that out. So yeah, so that, that was the beginning of the iteration of what could have been, a serious vocal career, but I was, scared and indecisive. And at the time, my late teens, my family was all about like, let's hear you sing this. We're doing a family gathering. Let's have you sing this. And it became so overwhelming that I just had to give up singing completely. Between my voice teacher saying, oh, you should go to, fancy school in New York, to, my family being a little pushy because they were so excited they had a singer in the family. So I took time off and decided that I wanted to move out. I was 19. I wanted to live on my own. I wanted to support myself. I just wanted to figure out what I wanted in life. And, cut to a few years later, at this point, I'm leaving. I had been working at QFC for that whole time. So I started out as a bag girl when I was like 15, and I worked for QFC for 8 years, and then decided that I didn't want to, be here for the rest of my life. And I was interested in makeup. So many of you know I'm also a makeup artist. So I left and started to pursue a career in cosmetics. And, a year into that or so, I asked my mom, what would you like for Mother's Day? And she said, honestly, I really want to hear you sing. And I was like, oh, okay, thinking it was going to be like a living room recital and, her and me and like 4 other people. And it turned into something very, very different. My best friend at the time was at BCC, and he was in a musical production of The Fantastics with another wonderfully influential and amazing person in my life. Their music director, his name was Ken Magos. And my best friend Zach was like, you got to meet Ken. He's so great. He's really wonderful. He's fun to work with. And Zach and I have sung together many, many, many times. And when we were younger, it was like we were always the karaoke couple and singing fun karaoke duets like Summer Nights from Grease, and just another musical theater ham, the great crooning voice. And so, you know, I asked him, I was like, do you want to come sing a couple songs on this recital with me? And he was like, yeah, but, you know, let's go work with Ken. And I was like, okay. So I get together with Ken, start taking voice lessons from him. And he's like, what are you doing? You have too much voice to be stuck here. And so I ended up hiring an accompanist, and 4 months and like 25 songs later, had a full-on recital in the cabana at my mom's condo at the time. And yeah, working with Ken changed my life. He was able to continue on the platform that Edie Delegons had started, and recognized a couple of other technical things that I was having issues with, and introduced me to Puccini. So I credit Ken for introducing me to the composer that my voice loves the most. I'm not a high and fast soprano. My voice just likes to find those high notes and then just sit there. A lot of people like to think that I'm, you know, a coloratura or a spinto, which are those like really, you know, like Cecilia Bartoli. I don't have a voice like Cecilia Bartoli. I would like to think I'm more of a Renee Fleming, although I'm not, because she's also amazing. So yeah, working with Ken, I worked with him for about a year and a half, and he ended up getting a directing gig for a musical review and wanted me to be a part of it. So I was like, well, I guess I got to quit my job at Nordstrom, because I can't be the person that's rehearsing. So I went back to grocery and did cake decorating at Larry's Markets when that was a thing, so that I could go to rehearsal and go to performances and not have a, you know, schedule conflict. And he was the one that inspired me to go to school in New York, because it was the school that he got his master's degree in. He was like, listen, even if you don't become an opera singer, you have the talent, you deserve to do this for yourself, to get this training for yourself, to have this experience for yourself, and to get out of Seattle. And so I auditioned and I got in. My mom and I flew to New York and had a great weekend, and I was completely nervous, but I auditioned and I moved to New York 3 weeks before 9/11. So that was another interesting, I could talk a whole other bunch about that. It really changed the dynamic of our vocal group, that's for dang sure, because, you know, you get these ideas, get vocal, especially vocal work with women, it's a very competitive place to be. And our class, having experienced this huge trauma, we ended up like completely bonding, and I'm still really close friends with most of the voice majors that I graduated with. And in fact, I'm planning a little New York mini reunion in 2025 for our 20th graduation. Sorry. Time passes. So I moved to Manhattan, go to Manhattan School of Music. Yeah, I had a really amazing time. And the thing that made the difference for me between like the tough experience I had at Bellevue Community College and the experience I had at Manhattan School was the music history and the music theory were kind of along the same level. So in music history, as I was learning about Bach, we were learning about figured bass, which is like what Bach was writing. And so it made everything make a little bit more sense for me. You know, I was diagnosed with a learning disability when I was like 19, and like I didn't have to think about that stuff until I started focusing with music theory. And I still struggle with it. Like I still can't read music like a normal musician reads music. But I've learned enough to know what I need to do. And I still definitely prefer having a chart of music than nothing at all. I really enjoyed both the contemporary ensemble I got to sing with at Manhattan School of Music, as well as the outreach program that I was a part of my last year of school. We did 2 different programs. One, we put on a cabaret that we took around to some nursing homes. It was so much fun. And then we did a program for kids, kind of trying to explain like what opera is, what's a tenor, what's a soprano. And at the time, The Incredibles was the big movie. And so our play was called The Sing-Credibles. And we found out later that the kid who voiced Dash in The Incredibles was in the audience of the school we were at. So that was fun. I graduate with my undergraduate from Manhattan School of Music, and about halfway through school, again, I kind of realized that like, I'm not sure I want to be an opera singer full time. It's hard work. It's a lonely life. You're traveling a lot. You live out of a suitcase. If you're performing for 3 hours that night, maybe you can't talk all day because you have to be on vocal rest. And I wasn't sure that was for me. But what I really enjoyed was working at the opera studio. My work study was an administrative job in the opera studio, where I got to be the liaison for the opera studio and the opera students, and got to be the kind of check-in and not manager, but greeter, arranger for all of the master's students that were auditioning for the opera program. And every single person was like, thank you so much. Like, this is such a tough thing to do. You made me feel so comfortable. You made me feel welcome. Nobody ever made me feel that way. And so the wheels started to spin, and I thought, maybe I could do have a career in arts administration and be, a manager which is basically a manager for classical musicians. It's kind of like their agent. But as I graduated, I could not find any of those jobs. And I went back to school, went to Manhattan School of Music later in life. So, I basically graduated from college 11 years after I graduated from high school. And I didn't want to be that person that was working 25 jobs in New York. It just didn't sound good to me. So, I did fall back on cosmetics, because at that point I had been doing like weekend gigs for the company I had started working for at Nordstrom, and reached out to them, and I was like, hey, you guys have anything full time? And graduated from school and completely stopped singing again, because I had to work. I had to pay bills. Living in New York, it's an expensive place. And it's interesting, I look back on it, the whole time I was in New York, I didn't find a synagogue. There were plenty of suggestions, and lots of people were like, oh, you'd really like this. And, I just, for some reason, I didn't have the connection to it. And I think part of it was that for me, going to shul was very much a family thing, like going with my mom, being there with Rabbi Morel, being there with Cantor David, like that was my home, and it felt weird to go to a different home. So, fast forward quite a few years to, 2006, 2007, I'm struggling a little bit. I'm working. My mom's struggling a little bit. She needs to have some surgery, and it was the right time for me to move back to Seattle. So I did that, and pretty much immediately went back to B'nai Torah, and I was like, oh, I can sing in the adult choir, because I did that for a year or two before I left Seattle to go to New York. And I came back, and it was very different. And it was nothing against B'nai Torah, but it just felt like, there's already a cantor there. I'm not going to get a bunch of solos. I'm not going to be able to share my voice the way I'd like to. And, it was a little bit of an ego thing. I'm not going to dance around that. And, I was like, I'm looking for more. And in one of the rehearsals before, I think High Holy Days, I got not recruited. I mean, I did get recruited, but there was the woman who started the Seattle Jewish Chorale, Michelle Yano, came around to all the choir rehearsals of all of the local synagogues to recruit for the Seattle Jewish Chorale. And what's funny is my grandpa's dermatologist was also a member of the Seattle Jewish Chorale, and I had met him a couple months earlier because I had taken my grandpa to an appointment. And he came, when he found out I was a singer, he came out and introduced himself to me and was like, so I hear you're a singer, and like put his arm around me, like, you should come join this group. So when I met Michelle Yano, I was like, oh yeah, Dr. Steve told me about you. And she was like, oh yeah, Dr. Steve told me about you. So I auditioned for the chorale, got in right away. And our first choir director was Mary Pat Graham, who really was a fantastic person to work with, and once she realized that I had the voice that I had, she would just assign me solos. Like she wouldn't let me audition. She would just be like, here, you're singing this. But I really enjoyed being with a chorale, because for the first time in quite a few years, it was an opportunity for me to keep the classical side of my voice going, to keep the healthy part, to be doing vocal exercises and singing with a choir again, because I've done that my whole life. So I really love choir a whole lot. And yeah, I at one point did a thing called Build a Band, and met some really cool people that were looking for singers for a band. So I joined a rock band for a little while and sang covers. And I noticed that as time went on, the covers that I was singing I was doing a lot of belting and, not the healthiest. And I was starting to like lose my top notes a little bit. And so I had to quit the band because the health of my voice was much more important. And so yeah, so my first concert with the Seattle Jewish Chorale was, I think, Hanukkah 2009. It was at B'nai Torah. And my friend, I was working at the time, I was part-timing at Starbucks and part-time freelance cosmetics, trying to build my, makeup artistry work out here in Seattle. And a friend of mine at Starbucks, Jennifer, was friends with Shira, who used to be the musical director before Diana. And she brought Shira to our Hanukkah concert. And I got to meet her afterwards. And Shira was like, why aren't you getting paid to sing? It's a question I still ask myself. And I said, I don't know, but I'd love to. And she said, listen, I'm music director of a synagogue. We're a meditative synagogue. Come to one of our services and, let me know what you think. Because at the time, I think she was actively looking for a soprano for the following year's High Holy Days. And so I did. When we were still at Unity, I came, and I think it only took one service for me to know that, like, this can easily be my new home. When Rabbi Olivier had mentioned Pink Floyd in his talk, I was like, that's it. That's cool. I'm here. Great. I'm a classic rock girl. You got me. And so I started singing at Unity when we were there with Shira. And I think, yeah, 2010 was my first High Holy Days with the Seattle Jewish Chorale. And it was the first time I had gotten paid as a paid musician to sing. And it just blew me away that, like, I could sing with the full gravitas of my voice, but also blend with 3 other people. And in some cases have a lot of fun doing it. Our Purim, I think my first Purim was when we dressed up as the Beatles and sang Beatles covers to tell the story of Esther. And if I wasn't hooked by my first High Holy Days, which I was, we all know our High Holy Days are completely unlike any other synagogues, and we leave so energized and so connected with each other. Doing the Yivarechecha and blessing each other made me cry so hard. And just having that much love in the community, I was like, that's it. This is home. And so now I have my 2 loves, where I get to, still use a wide variety of my voices depending on what we are doing. And, singing with Diana for the past almost 13 years has been such a blessing. And having her as our music director, you guys know, like, we don't anticipate our voices to sound that good together. They just do. And our voices are so different, when we are singing our solo type voices, but yet when we're together, I was just listening to the Refayenu that was posted on the app today, actually. And I put it on to listen to it, and I was like, man, we really sound good, don't we? So yeah, wow, I'm shocked. I thought I was going to talk a whole lot more, but that basically led me to Bet Olive. And I do have some clips to share some of my my more recent. I wish I had older clips. I do not. I would have been really fun if I found something from high school. So I apologize for not having that. But I do have some two really special clips that I'd like to share. One is from our most recent, the Seattle Jewish Chorale's most recent concert, Hanukkah Age Old Stories of Freedom. This was our very first in-person concert post-COVID. So you will notice we are all masked. And this song in particular is the first time we've ever done anything in Ukrainian. Our music director, Jacob, found a really strong parallel between the Hanukkah story and what is happening in Ukraine now, and made a very wise choice to include some Ukrainian melodies in this concert that we just had for Hanukkah. So the first clip is me singing in Ukrainian. You will also recognize the scene Shalom is the second half of it. But what's interesting is I never put two and two together until Ukraine went under attack. My great grandmother is from Odessa. So I grew up thinking I was part Russian. I'm part Ukrainian. So it was really special to get to have this solo. I am going to read the translation for you. So the song is called Nichiaka Mizyachna, The Night is Moonlit. The night is moonlit, so starry and clear, one could actually find a needle in a haystack. Come out, my beloved, though tired from work, just for a minute, to the woods. Don't be afraid that your bare little feet will get cold from the dew, for I, my faithful one, will carry you all the way home in my own arms. And then the Sim Shalom, give peace in the world, kindness and blessing, favor and charity and mercy upon us and all of Israel, your nation. So I'm going to share my screen and share this first clip. right. So that was yeah, my first time singing in Ukrainian. Do I have time to share a second clip, Stu?
Absolutely.
Great. So this next clip I am going to share is another chorale concert. This one was recorded with a single camera, so the sound might not be as good, but you'll be able to tell, but this is pre-pandemic. This particular piece is called Not in Our Town. And it is a variation on a folk song written about an instance that happened in Billings, Montana. Basically, I think it was the late 80s or early 90s, and the Ku Klux Klan came to town and decided that they were going to wreak havoc, and the town was like, no, we don't want you here, and they rallied against the Klan for like the 4 Jewish families that were in the town. This is probably one of my most favorite. I've sung this several times. On this particular concert, I am sharing the solo with baritone Paul Johns. And I think we're doing this again for the spring concert. So if you guys want to hear it live. All right, let me share my screen again and share my sound again.
Click on the full screen when you do that.
And the lovely Sherry Rosenstein on flute. Oh, wait. I forgot. Did I share? I haven't shared this yet, have I? I didn't click share. Sorry.
Not yet.
You would think that I know what I'm doing. Okay, let me click the share button. There we go.
Got it.
Sorry.
Gift for her schoolmate sorry this happened to you. Have you seen the paper? Did you hear the news? What kind of people are we? We thought we knew. Your children pride and prejudice, in peace together dwell. If you look through this shattered glass, do we see ourselves? Margaret MacDonald called her pastor on the phone. This time the Jews will not face their foes alone. We'll make paper menorahs, display them from our homes. We'll show the bigots there are more of us than they have stones. Shopkeepers printed up menorahs by the score. Children in their Sunday schools numbered dozens more. Though in the town of Billings live not 100 Jews, menorahs now were everywhere on every avenue. Through the drifting snow, turning over children round, menorahs like thousands in the windows of the town. Are all these people Jewish? Asked Isaac as they went. His mother answered, "They are your friends." One moment of conviction, one voice quiet and clear, one act of compassion. It all begins here. No safety, no silence. We've got to stand our ground. No hate, no violence, not in our town. Not in our town. One act of compassion. It all begins here. Safety, no silence. We've got to stand our ground. No hate, no violence, not in our town. No hate, no violence, not in our town. No hate, no violence, not in our town. No violence, not in our town. No violence, not in our town.
That song always gives me the chills every single time I listen to it. Shall we open it up to Q&A? Does anybody have any questions about the rambling story I just shared?
Well, I've got a question, Celia.
Okay.
I'm the kind of person, and maybe I was tainted early because when I was in school, I think it was junior high, and we had choirs. The teacher walked around tilting her ear, and when she got close to me, she said, "You, shut up." And so anyway, do you, when you're singing in a group like that, do you feel like you're melting into this team, that you're part of this crescendo of sound? And it's, yeah, could you describe that a little better than I am?
Especially having not sung together in a live room for almost 3 years. So just like Beit Aleph, when we decided to go virtual, the chorale also went virtual in pretty quickly because we didn't want to be a super spreader event. And so we spent most of our rehearsals on Zoom. And I think that first year we didn't end up doing anything. And then we decided to record virtual concerts, which was great. It was a lot of work, and they kind of progressed, but we got very used to recording by ourselves with a click track and a practice track in our ear. And so I think our first in-person rehearsal was October of this year, and we got to sing together again. There's nothing like being a part of a large group of voices that, singing planned music and coming together and hearing not just the harmonies, but the vibrations in the room. You can feel it. When we sung La Ela, which is a newer piece for us, meaning it means upward. That is one of my favorites from this past concert that we did. We also recorded it virtually. Many of us just you can just feel the energy, and a lot of people had joined right before or even during the pandemic as well. And so they didn't know what it was like to sing with a group of people and hear the other singers and hear the other parts. And it's like a rainbow of music, and you can feel it, you can hear it, you can almost taste it. It's pretty incredible. And I think that's part of the reason why I love choral singing so much, because there's so much conversation that happens between the four parts, the four voice parts, the sopranos, the altos, the tenors, the basses. And sometimes we're all doing something the same, and our harmonies are really unique and amazing, and sometimes the parts overlay and it's like we're talking to each other. And there are certain parts of certain songs that other parts of the choir sing that I get really excited about because I think they sound cool, and it's neat to get to be a part of that. Cindy, I call on you.
Thank you. Celia, are there things that you have yet to wish to be doing, either musically or generally, or it sounds like your life it's sort of wonderful. It just kind of has unrolled in a way, and that of course could just continue to happen. You don't need a plan or a particular aspiration, but I'm just curious.
I do miss musical theater. And if I didn't have Bet Aleph and didn't have the chorale, I would probably audition for more, or audition at all for anything going on in Seattle. But I'm also, that would, I think, drive me over the edge as far as having a full-time job and spending time with my family and my husband. But yeah, I miss musical theater. Luckily, there's enough shtick at Beit Aleph, and Diana, appreciates it, that when we do get to bring it for Purim, that's when I get to let the musical theater person out, which is really fun. I did have two other career dreams that, like, if I won the lottery or something, or came into lots and lots of money, one of my musical dreams would be to be like an ethnomusicologist, in the sense that I want to travel to different regions of the world and learn their indigenous singing. So like learn, tribal singing in China, and learn, singing in Bulgaria. Like they use their throats so differently. It's a totally different way of singing. That fascinates me. The other thing kind of related to singing that I've always enjoyed is accents and dialect work. So I thought it would be really fun to be a dialect coach. But I'm not doing either of those things, and I'm okay.
Well, I have another question.
Okay.
I don't want to, I'll shut up after this one, but so as somebody, I love singing in choirs, and have mostly only been able to do that a lot as I did in high school, and then much later as an adult. but so you're the solo singer, and I don't know what it's like for you to sing with people who, I don't know how to describe it, just are okay,
You aren't solo singers?
like have regular voice, just regular
Yeah.
voice, maybe, can match pitch and, you
Mhm.
know, all that, but I don't know what that's like for you to have like those people around you, to know that you're leading people. I don't know, that whole
Mhm.
experience of singing with people who aren't in musical theater, who aren't at that level.
Right. Yeah, the chorale is a pretty interesting mix of people. We've got some people that, have been singing their whole lives and read music, and other people that are there just because they enjoy and love music. And we do, Jacob is really great about working on some ear training and some musical training, so we do sight reading, to help people with their skills, which I appreciate. Jacob is truly Jacob Finkel, our choir director now, I should say, is pretty awesome, because he has this great ability to be able to speak to musicians of all levels, where he can help people that don't know technical terms still make the kinds of sounds that blend. And as long as everybody's mouths are doing the same thing, again, it's been 2 years since we've really worked on blend, but when I'm in the sopranos, it's nice. I'm not the only super strong singer. Our section leader, Rachel Rosenman, is an incredibly strong soprano as well. And so I get excited when I get to sing with her. She's my singing buddy. And sometimes she sings first and sometimes she sings second. So when she sings second, it's almost like I get to duet with her a little bit. But for the most part, I enjoy being able to control my voice in such a way that, if I need to be the leader, I can, but if I need to hold back and blend and be quiet, I also can. And I think that's because I learned how to sing in choir before I learned how to be a soloist. I think I've just always had a big solo voice. I just never really knew it until I got into high school. But yeah, Mary Pat Graham, the first choir director I worked with at the chorale, gave me probably one of the most meaningful compliments I've ever gotten. She said she's never met anybody like me that has a big solo voice that can also blend with a choir. And over the course of the chorale, we've had several big singers come and join us, either as a paid ringer, or sometimes we need them at the last minute if we have a concert and a bunch of people are sick, or just professional singers or big voice singers that are used to doing more solo work come in, and they're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this isn't for me. And so I feel really lucky that I'm able to do that, because apparently not many people are.
I have a question.
Yes, Susan.
Yeah, like when I've gone to Seattle Opera or Tacoma Opera, I mean, I can't tell the difference between one cast and the other, and they all sound fine to me. But someone with your training and ear and experience, is it obvious to you who's really good and who's they're making you cringe, or they're all just good but different?
I think it's good but different. If you're good enough to get into the Seattle Opera, even if you're A cast or B cast, that's still pretty amazing. I just look at the individual performances. I love seeing live performance, whatever shape or form that is, whether it's opera or musical theater or drama or live music like a band. Yeah, my husband's mother is also a theater person, so we went to go see I don't know if I want this recorded. We went to go see A Little Shop of Horrors, and the three of us walked out and we had some critiques. But that was more of they were more performance choices and not necessarily having anything to do with what they did with their voices. It was more characterization. I don't know. I'm not in it. I'm not in that world enough. I feel bad. I'm not going to sit there and critique somebody that's doing something that I'm not, because I could have auditioned for Village at any point and haven't, and maybe wouldn't get in. But yeah, I don't know. I like to take the performances as it goes. But I mean, if somebody's up there and they're making some not great sounds, yeah, I'm gonna be like, what is happening? You know, and everybody has bad days too. That's the other thing, is like, that's what the training is for. You know, the training is for, to give you the ability to get up and do the things in your performance so that you don't have to think about what your throat's doing and how you're breathing and, you know, where your placement is and what your body's doing. Like when you're in the moment of performance, like all that stuff goes out the window and you're just, you know, it's you and the audience depending on what you're performing. And you know, sometimes it's not every performance is perfect. Like in fact, the Not in Our Town that I just shared with you, the last note that I hold should have been held for much longer, and I ran out of air, and I'm not going to breathe and come back in on that high note because it would have been really obvious. So I just had to like stop. So, you know, that's like, I mean, I know we're always our own worst critics, and like you guys would have never known had I not pointed that out to you. But yeah, I listened to that and I'm like, oh, that was a missed opportunity. And I hope that the next time I get to sing it, I will, you know, make different choices. But sometimes in the moment, what happens.
You ever thought about doing a recording?
Yes, I would love to. I don't have the money for it. Honestly, I spent the bulk of this summer trying to get a better home setup so that I could record at least fun videos and, you know, put them on YouTube and TikTok. And I'm not a technical person, and my husband's a techie, but he's not a sound techie. He's a computer techie, and so he could only help me so much. And I do have friends that are, you know, more like our friends in the chorale that actually helped us with our production for our videos. Like if I really wanted to, I could call them and be like, hey, can I come record at your house, please? And I've done some projects with them actually, that hopefully will come out soon because they're very interesting. But yeah, I know Diana and I have talked about recording Bet Olive music. I think I would, if anything, I wouldn't mind having another classical recital and then having that recorded. I haven't sung classical solo music in a while. So that's something that's kind of been on my in my brain for a little while. But you know, again, it takes time to organize and find an accompanist, and it's, you know, it's all money that I don't have at the moment.
It'd be great if you could just, nothing more than give it to future generations or something.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, you know, most of the stuff that I'm doing with the chorale and most of the stuff, depending on what Diana's putting up, you know, all of that's on YouTube. So, you know, you can go back and watch Shabbat services and hear me sing, you know, whatever's on YouTube. It's pretty great. And I have a couple of ukulele songs on my own YouTube page, and then stopped doing it because I got distracted.
How would somebody find your YouTube page?
That's a good question. I can share it with you, Stu, and if you want to send it out, or I don't know how we can. I think if you just search for me, like I think it's just Celia Curran. Like it's nothing special.
But
Let me see if I can find it and put it in the chat.
okay. Well, while you're doing that, I'm going to thank you for a spectacular performance tonight. And I just tingled, frankly, listening to you talk about your journey. It's so exciting to share someone's excitement, and you let us do that. Uh, and so I really want to thank you for that.
Well,
And
thank you for having me.
if you haven't found a way to find you on YouTube, we can put it in the note which goes with, have you found it?
I have 15 whole subscribers.
Wow.
A whopping 15.
So you just search for Celia Curran on YouTube.
Yes, I put it in the chat, but if you search for Celia Curran, my name and my picture will pop up.
Excellent. All right. Well, before we sign off tonight, I want to tell you that on February 15, Kalish Leviel is going to be our speaker. Now, Kalish is a rabbi, and she's with the Center for Spiritual Living in Bellingham. And she's going to talk to us about her journey, becoming a rabbi, what she learned, and then some of the wisdom that she added through becoming part of the Center for Spiritual Living. Now, I got to know Kalish when the Beit Aleph group went to Spain in the spring. I think she's been a speaker at some of our services. But anyway, tune in, please, February 15, Wednesday, 7 p.m. And we'll have the pleasure of listening to Kalish Leviel. And once again, thank you so much, Celia. And this Friday night, we'll see you at services, either in person or all your pixels will be looking at us. I'm going to stop the recording. And those of you who want to hang around and socialize, why, this will be your opportunity to do that. So thank you all for participating. And let's see, stop recording. Okay, are you sure you want to stop recording? Yes.